Hello, Internet. I'm excited and welcome to Legacy. We have a fellow here from 7 Mate, Hugo Maree. I don't know if you can see it on my head, but I walked into extractor, I suppose, in the new kitchen. You know, these fancy things in restaurants which come on and then it sucks out the air. I walked into that. It wasn't Rebecca who abused me. So I've got a plaster on my head. She's laughing here in the background. I thought of wearing a hat, but perhaps you will not be able to see it that well because of the lighting. If you see it, you can laugh. It's fine. It's not a problem. By the time you actually see this, I've been healed a long time ago already. I'm just too tall, man. You know, I'm taller than the Thai people, and this thing is quite low. I'll put what do you call it? A picture in here so you can laugh with me. Anyway, enough about me. We've got a medic here on the other side. And sir, you are most welcome. Thank you, Hugo. I'm really grateful to hear your story. May I ask you, what happened? Were you called up like everybody else and then you somehow ended up in 7 Mate?
So Koos, yeah, thank you. I ended up being called up to the medics and went to Klipdrift there near Potch and did the basics there, and then went to got selected for the ops medic course, which that happens there by Sam's in at Directorate in Pretoria, and I think how I ended up in 7 Med was probably because I had a girlfriend. I received a Dear Johnny, about a month or so before the end of the ops medic course, and wasn't very happy about that situation. So the next thing that happened was the Special Forces guys came around, and there was somehow a bit of a drafting structure to say that they gave us a bit of info about who wanted to come and join 7 Medical Battalion, and it's a new division, a new Special Forces division that they're launching, or were just launched a year before. So I think it was this was 1985, so I think it's right in the beginning of 7 Med as far as I know. And decided, listen, I don't have a girlfriend anymore, so I can just as well go to Special Forces. And so that's probably my 7 Med story. So 7 Med was more of a, so I mean, we did that was just after the ops medic course, so we did a lot of the ops medic stuff already, and so this was more about then a little bit more specialized. I'm not sure how, it was a little bit more of the medical stuff, but I think this was more about, we had to go do the parachute course in Bloemfontein. So we did a whole lot of training for that. There was a bit of a selection type of thing that happened, and I think out of about 25 or so, there are guys that started, if I remember correctly, there was about 11 or so of us that eventually got our wings. And that was by the end of 1985. So the next thing was we got posted up to the border, and I ended up at a hospital in Angola called Koos, and it was just on the northern side of the Kabanga River, almost just there where the Caprivi Strip starts. So, and we were, and my aim was just to get past the next year, fish as much as I can, drink as much as I can, and do as little as I can. That was the main aim. So I was a national serviceman. So the long story short, I was just there to kill time, and we did, as a matter of fact. Did a lot of fishing at Koos, but we also caught. We also were part of. There was some 7 Medical Battalion doctors there, and this was to assist the UNITA soldiers. Actually, there was, well, obviously the injured people, also the local community in that area. A lot of amputees, and but in that process, I was an anaesthetist. I helped with amputations. I caught a couple of babies myself, so that was quite a rustic hospital, in the sense that you've got to do, even though I was just a medic, we actually did quite a bit more than I suppose we should have. But got a call the one day and said I needed to go to Rundu, and was picked up with a Land Cruiser and whisked off to Rundu. I wasn't very happy about the fact that that happened, because I was very comfortable next to the Kavanga River with my fishing rod. So ended up meeting Commandant Les Rudman at the time. He put a little team together. So we met up at the what was it called? HSE, Koos. What was it called those days? It was HSE, was they had a base there at
intelligence.
That's right. So ended up there, and he then put a bit of a little team together. Only years later heard that, you know, how we got to the team, but was more apparently afterwards, when we met up for a couple of beers, he told me that it was more of a dispensable type of team that he put together, just something that the guys, you know, because we weren't officially involved in the war, and at that stage, apparently there was an instruction that South Africa should not be involved at all. But between him and was it Colonel Jan Breitenbach, I think it was a colonel, and then Commandant Bert Saxe, they had a couple of rogue teams still around, apparently. So he selected a bit of a dispensable team that nobody would really know if they lost us in the process. So we got there at Rundu, and very quickly a brand new Casper arrived, and he said, okay, well, we're going to do some alterations on it, and we started building a whole speaker system on top of that Casper. So I mean, didn't know anything about welding, but there was a couple of tiffies and a couple of guys that he got around to help with the welding. So we built a system with a massive speaker system. He got these massive, almost like megaphones type of things, and I can't remember. He's got all the stats, and if you speak to him one day, ask him about it. We built the structure, and I think I've sent you a couple of photos that I got courtesy of Les that you can use as well, Koos, just to show what this thing looked like. But and the back quarter of this Casper was they welded a whole plate in it, and he got a guy, and I think it was a Captain Skippers. I mean, he was a guy that also part of intelligence, but he knew quite a bit of electronics and speakers and stuff. And he built a whole amplifier system in the back, and they used an actual, what was it, a Sony Walkman. You know those little Walkmans with the tapes? So he used those tapes, and so didn't know what we were building. We knew that this thing is going to make a lot of noise, and it looked like a massive party tool that we're building. So a couple of weeks later, he said, okay, let's go. We all jumped in the Casper, and then met up with the team, and I think we were about 6 of us. There's a photo that you can use if you want to, because that was the team there. Some of the other guys, they were part of the UNITA guys, but we only got them in Angola. So we ended up with me from 7 Med. So obviously, firstly, Les. Dolph Skippers, he was a captain. He was also intelligence, and he was mainly involved in working that. That thing was then called Grootskreeu. He actually had a name. So he was the main operator of the sound system, but also intelligence. We had a guy from artillery, and there was 2 drivers, or driver, and there was a second Casper. We actually had 2. So there was a team of about 6 of us, and ended up driving to Angola. And then only in Angola we got, because I mean, as a national serviceman, you know that need to know basis, which means you never get to know anything until the shit hits the fan. But then suddenly you're allowed to know. But we ended up got to fairly high up, I think middle up in Angola, and then met up with Colonel Breitenbach and Commandant Saxe team, and then we heard that the plan was, and only later we need this for us. This was never an operation with a name, but it was then called Alpha Centauri, I think it was called, the operation. So what the plan was is there was a breach at Quito, and for the operation, 1986 operation offensive rather, that they were expecting from Fabla, the plan was to see how we can hinder them as much as possible, including, and the one drive was to go and blow up the breach. And which there's a photo of the bridge there, Koos, that you can maybe show. But so you'll see that is the main bridge, which is the main road that actually feeds into the southeastern part of Angola, and that was the stronghold of UNITA. So Jumbo was there, and Savimbi's base were there. So that was probably the only main road where they can bring through all their artillery and all the weapons and ammunition, etc. So the main drive was to go and hinder and possibly blow up the breach. So we ended up, so from a medic perspective, so firstly, when we got into Angola for the first time, we actually tested this whole system properly. So what they did was, it had like a winch system, and you'll see there's one photo where you can see where the speaker system is up, and you hinge this whole speaker system up. You can actually rotate it a little bit. If I remember correctly, I can't remember if you can rotate it, but I think we could. And it had then Dolf Skeepers, Captain Skeepers. He was then went to the back, and the first sound that they played was the sound of a tank. You could hear those Caterpillar tracks, and then the turbo, and then stopped. And then we had a Unimog, which I forgot to mention. There was a Unimog with us with a 106. What was it called? 106. Was it I can't remember. Was it just
recoilless rifle or something? But right. It's got a shell this huge.
Yeah. So what would happen is we would make the sound of a tank, and then as the sound of the tank reduces and stops, Les would instruct the guy on the 106 to do a couple of shoot off a couple of what was it, rounds or whatever it was called. There's massive noise, and then he would start up the tank again and then shoot. So it's as if we're moving forward and we're shooting with a tank. Now, being a scared medic, national serviceman, I went to Les. So we're standing after this whole exercise, a couple of exercises we did, and I went to Les, and he was very proud of this new toy of his. And I said, Commandant, I've just got a question here. What is the plan with this? He says, no, we're gonna, if we go into this action situation, we were gonna raise this, and we're gonna make that. He's gonna then attempt to create the fact that we've got this tank brigade with us, and that should scare the guys off. And I said, well, I hear what you're saying, but I personally think that that if we do this, we'll probably wake the guys up, and they're going to get all their tanks and come to us. I mean, don't you think that is a problem? And somehow he never thought that was a problem. And you'll hear later that's exactly what happened. I told him that right in the beginning. Anyway, so then we spent a couple of weeks getting closer to Quito, to the breach area. Probably, I can't remember from a distance perspective. And there were two rivers. That's the Quito River and the Carnival River, and that's actually that Quito. It's a little town actually, and there's this big bridge. So what the first plan was then we got a whole lot of explosive, PE4 explosives that was driven up with a Quairful. Quairful is one of those trucks, those anti-mine trucks. And then we had to prepare. We did some preparation of the explosives, and then the decision was taken the one night that we would drive in. We being Les's team with 2 Caspers and the explosives, and Commandant Bert Saxer and Colonel Breitenbach would we obviously didn't know exactly the mechanics, but they had some other roles, and we started with driving up there, obviously just after dark, and at about 2 o'clock in the morning, the Quairful hit a anti-tank mine, and all hell broke loose. Initially, I mean, you get the fright of your life because when sand falls on your vehicle, that whole scary scenario. For me personally, it was my first real scary action situation. And then Les said, okay, well, let's just get all relax. We also had a Wittungs. Wittungs is like a recovery vehicle with us, and he got the Wittungs in front of the Quairful. We got help to all get it hooked up, and he wanted us to get off the road and to underneath some of the higher trees areas, which was a little bit, not too dense. It was not dense enough for me personally. Would have preferred it a lot more denser than that. But anyway, we got to a point where he gave us instruction to go off, and probably about 50 meters, 100 meters, I don't know, further, the Wittungs also hit an anti-tank mine. And that's when we realized we were in the middle of this minefield. So I was working the 5.0 Brownie. I think we had a 3.0 Brownie. Well, I can't remember. I was working the 3.0 Brownie, and then Captain Skippers was in our vehicle, and Les was in the other one. And so Les gave an instruction, said he needs out of every vehicle of the 2 Caspers, we had to get somebody out of the vehicle and then walk in front of the vehicle because there was a lot of trenches, and he was scared to be driving into some of them. So me being behind the 3.0 Brownie, I said, listen, I'm working here, so I'm not going out. And so I was very certain that Captain Skippers will do that, because I mean, he sits there doing nothing, according to me. And he gave an instruction and said, no, I must go out. I said, no, Captain, I'm very busy here with I'm working the 3.0 Brownie here. He says, no, you'll work the 3.0 Brownie, I must go out. So got out. And then I met up, and Les got out in front of his vehicle. So I met up with him. I was not happy about this situation. Plus, then he decided to put a glow stick on my back. Now, I said, listen, I'm just we're in a situation where we're in the middle of the night, in a space where we're probably in some form of ambush of some sort. Now I've got to walk with a glow stick on my back. That just does not make sense to me. And the reason for that was that obviously the guy from the driver must be able to drive behind me so he can see the glow stick. But it just didn't feel right that I've got this massive glow stick target on my back in the middle of Angola, in probably an ambush situation. So, but he convinced me that it was a very good idea and that I had no choice in the matter. So that's what happened. So he walked probably about 20 meters to my right, and both in front of, we both walked in front of the Caspers in this, obviously in the minefield. And probably about 5 minutes later, there was and we had about 20 young UNITA soldiers with us. But I mean, if I'm probably 10, 12 years old, I think, kids, really kids, they should be playing with skateboards, not okay. So we were, they were there allocated to us by the UNITA forces, and we got to a point where probably about 20, 30 meters into our walking through the trenches, one of those young boys stepped onto an anti-personnel mine. Very quickly, the other kids came and picked him up, brought him to me, and then Les came over, and he had a little flashlight. So suddenly I had to do an amputation in the middle of this bush, in the middle of a minefield rather, and I was shit scared, and got this foot semi-amputated, got a grip into the guy, and off he went. So that was my first medical situation in probably in the first 2 hours of my first real operation. Really got into that. So that very quickly I got into understanding how quickly this, you got to be, not, and I don't think I was a great medic, but at least I think I got the grip in. I think I got the guy off. So that was that was that first, and now I'm really not happy. So we're in the and then we had to continue further. So back, he just stepped on the landmine next to me, and there's always jokes about it afterwards. He says, "Listen, I had a better chance than him because he's got size 12 boots, and I had 9s." So he says he took a lot bigger risk than I did. Well, probably could be, but I don't know. But it's also interesting. You suddenly don't know: do you step on a grass pollicky, or do you step next to it? So you start to think, where would I put an anti-personnel mine if I had to do it? Long story short, we ended up can't move. So then the Wittings, both those two vehicles were now disabled, and we had to try and to get under trees, and probably now it was around about 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, a little bit earlier, Les used that grondskree tank thing, which exactly what I told him was going to happen. You could hear the flipping tank start up, BRDMs or whatever they were, and they came closer. So now we were about 4 o'clock. We stuck, and as it got to, and it just started to get light, probably more close to 5. I can't remember. So we got word from the radio guy that said there were MiGs or Su-22s on their way. And we normally had about 20 minutes from Luanda to where we were when the planes would arrive. So we knew we had about 20 minutes to cover up and do what we have to do. So we did all the camionets as far as we could. And the Sus, as promised, arrived, and they were looking for us. So they had a fairly good idea in the area, region where we were, but they weren't exactly sure. So the one would dive down, and they were shooting and they were bombing, but they were not, not close to us, but they were trying to fish us out. And we jumped into a trench. The 6 of us or so, I think we were 6 of us odd. And we were standing in the trench, and now you could hear the guys coming closer, Foplo coming closer. You could hear the tanks or the BRDMs, which I still believe today Les called with his toy. And the guys were fairly close at that stage, but we couldn't move because of the Su-22s and the MiGs or whatever there was in the air. So we had to sit that out. That was probably about half an hour they were hanging around there and were looking for us. And they left. And we could only, once they leave, we could jump and then try and get away. So, my second medical encounter in the bush was that I had Stematils with me. Now, Stematol is actually a nausea pill, anti-nausea, but it had a side effect of being it had a calming effect. And I was flipping scared. And we were standing in the trench, and I had a Lord. Remember those? We didn't have any South Africa. We had camos. We weren't from South Africa. So we had Russian weapons, and we had an RPG, but I had a Law. It's that little light anti-tank weapon, that little thing it's a disposable thing, which doesn't help me either. I've just got one That's the other problem I had. I've just got one bullet. I wanted more. But so we were standing in this trench, and he said, and I said, listen, guys, and I took out a Stemetil, and I drank one, and Les saw me, and he said, Maria, what you doing? I say, well, Colonel, I'm shit scared. And this Stemetil, it's got a calming effect. And he said, well, give everybody one. And I said, well, you don't, this doesn't, I will, but I mean, I thought at that stage that the chances of us coming alive out of this situation was Les. He was not scared, and he's this colonel, and he knows exactly what to do. The fact that he wanted a Stemetil as well, then I really got shit scared. Then I was really scared. I was petrified. I said, well, why do you shouldn't get one. You should be good in this situation. But long story short, I handed out, I gave everybody 2. We had our Stemetils. Don't think it worked, but eventually we got out of that situation. The MiGs left, and just as the tanks got very, very close to us, we jumped in our vehicles. Les blew up we had that self-destroying device in it that we could blow up the Quairfall, but he also tried to do it with the Wittings, but the Wittings the explosive didn't go off, so they actually captured that vehicle afterwards. I think that vehicle is in a museum in Uganda today. But we ended up getting out of that alive, got back, regrouped, and I thought, listen, it's we can go home. And no. They were very adamant to go back, which I didn't agree with at all. Firstly, because now they know we're there. Secondly, because there's only one breach. I mean, what will they're not just going to allow us to walk in there. So long story short, here, Les Commandant Saxe and Colonel Breitenbach worked out a great new plan that we're going to now walk in, and then we're going to carry the explosives, and then going to go to the breach. And we had 2 boats, 2 Zodiacs, and 240 Suzuki motors, and we had about 100 young soldiers that helped us carry. So for a couple of weeks, we prepared all this explosive P4s. We had the big, I can't remember the size of them. They were fairly big, and then we had to cut it in half, put them in sandbags, prepare a whole system with ropes, and we were going to walk towards the bridge, arrive there at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and then we had the 2 boats that will go in the water, and then 2 of us had to go over the bridge with rolls of Cortex, go to the other side of the bridge, and then with 1 law and 1 RPG, Les decided that we must keep the tanks away while they do this, which I still didn't understand either. And so we ended up, plus he said, okay, and he explained, they do those little drawings on the ground, and they built the little things. So just that afternoon before we left, so he had his stick there. Colonel Breitenbach was there, Commandant Saxe, and a couple of guys. And so he took his stick and he drew lines, and he says, listen, guys, you're gonna now walk in here. They're going to drop us off here. We're going to now walk in all the way towards the bridge. We're going to go past this brigade, and then we're going to go around that brigade, and then past that brigade, and we're going to go to the bridge, and we're going to now quickly just go blow it up, and then we're going to come back. So I was standing there, and I said, Commandant, I've just got a question. Being a serviceman, I suppose, and the medic was bottom of the food chain there. Says, now, how many people are in a brigade? So he says, I can't remember what he said. Was it 1,000 or 3,000? Maybe 1,000. So I said, we're going to go past brigade 32, and then we're going to go around brigade this, and then around brigade 16. which I'm extremely sure their job mainly is to protect the bridge. We're going to just walk around them, the 6 of us. He said, yes. I looked around and I thought, is it just me? Or is this, is it just me that can't count properly? So amazing. I mean, that was that, and that was how they were operating. They weren't. He was just worried to get in. I never even asked him how we're going to get back. They were just worried how to get there. The back was a bonus, I suppose. Anyway, so we ended up, as he said, walking towards. We got in the vehicle, Casper, and we drove as far as we could. And then at about 5 o'clock that evening, we started walking. And he also said, "Listen, we don't have enough. Don't take too much. Just take 1 bottle of water each." Because we've got so much stuff to carry. What we'll do is when we get to the bridge, we give all our water bottles to the guys in the boats. They will then fill it up. And then afterwards, we can just extract each with our new bottle of water. So don't worry, guys. Don't worry about the water. So I'm not sure how the manuals work there. Of course, you would know better from sure that's not in the manual. But anyway, so that was the instruction. We ended up walking. As we were driving in the Casper to get dropped off to start with this operation, there was one guy with a little, those little Bibles. I can't remember if it was an army Bible, some little one, and he started reading out. And at a stage, another guy said, "Listen, can I have a turn?" And I think when I got to my turn, I was listening. I need you just need a little bit of anything. Grab onto, I need the Bible now. That when you need the Bible, you want it. So when it got to me, the next guy wanted it too. So we eventually ended up tearing a couple of pages out of that Bible, and we handed them around. So the guy, when the one guy's finished with his page, he just handed it back to the other guy. Because I think everybody knew this is not going to end up well. So long story short, got out, walked, got to the bridge at about 2. I think we were a little bit late, probably just after 2. So I think we needed to be there at about 1, but we were late. So got down, and you'll see that photo of the bridge. There's not a lot places to hide there. So walk down slowly or crawl down. Plus we had to blow up. So about a kilometer or so before we got to the beach, we had to blow up the Zodiacs and mounted the motors and get all that stuff sorted. And we still had this convoy of kids, about 100 kids, soldiers rather, that carried all the explosives. So we were on our way down, and as we got to the bridge, Les, we're right at the bridge. A boat pulled out from underneath the bridge, and it had a 14 mil whatever anti-air gun on it, and it started, all hell broke loose. So, also on the other side of the bridge, there was a 32 millimeter anti-aircraft gun. So you just saw those. What do you call those? Is it those tracers? Was it those? You just see those bullets flying towards us. So we started running to ditch the boats. I think we cut them up just before we left, and we started running, and everybody scattered. So the 6 of us stuck together, and there was, I think, one of the commando members, the commando guys, were the special forces of UNITA, and they were actually our guides in, where there was a couple of them, but I think only one stuck, or we just stuck to him. I think we just ran behind him. I think he tried to get away, but we didn't let him go. And we started running at about 2 o'clock or so in the morning. No water as instructed by Les, because it was not necessary, because we were going to fill up. And just didn't stop running. Everybody started shooting from all over, and you could hear the tank starting or BRDMs or whatever they were, and you people screaming, and we were running. So bullets flying, and we were running until first light. and then the MiGs were in the air again, or the Su-22s, and we couldn't move. But at that stage, we were exhausted, had no water, and the guy that had our radio got so tired that he got rid of the radio. He threw it away. So we had no radio, which Les was not happy about. But we got to a point where as the MiGs were in the air, we had to crawl under a bush. But you can hear the people coming closer and closer. And just as they got to us, the planes would go, and then we would run again. And one point, the one guy, I think it was Rassi, his name was, fell, or he actually collapsed from exhaustion. So Les said, "Listen, quickly get a drip in this guy." And now I'm not in a good place either, and shaking and shit scared and tired. And I eventually, Les was on my case to get the drip in. I eventually got the drip in, and I was holding the drip up like we got instructed to do. Very clear instructions, and you've got those little thingy that you adjust, and it slowly drips in. So I'm doing opening up a little bit more, supposed to give. And he says, "Listen, is a drip in?" I said, "Yes, Commandant." And he says, "Hold that needle." And I hold the needle, and he grabbed the drip out of my hand, and he stood on it, and he pumped a centimeter. I don't know. He pumped that liter. What's it? 2 liters. How big are those things? 1.5 liters. I can't remember how big those drips were. Probably glucose or something. He pumped it into Rassi probably within a minute, maybe less. Rassi stood up like the Undertaker. He just got up like this, and he started running. We couldn't catch him. So that thing worked like you can't. So that was my third medical encounter in the army. So, or on the border rather. So we ended up at about 3 o'clock that afternoon. We only got to UNITA base, where we got water for the first time. So that was and then afterwards, so we never got to the breach. We never blew it up. We had a lot of, it was quite interesting times, I suppose, from a medical perspective, especially a serviceman. You're not really, you're trained for it to suppose you've been trained it, but when you get into those situations, it's quite interesting. Just from afterwards, I think that the fact that my girlfriend left me got me into the situation, which I'm very grateful for today. So we had a lot of interest, from today. If you talk about it today, it's great stories to tell, but at that stage, it was quite interesting. So that's me, Chris. I don't have that just is my side from a medic, 7 Medical Battalion medic that ended up with a rogue team and rogue officers, suppose, put into interesting situations. And I'm not sure if you've spoken to Les yet, you might be in the future, but he'll probably tell you a little bit more about the detail. But that's me, and that's my story.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you. No, Hugo, I really enjoyed this one, mate. We're going to speak to General Les Rotman in the future. The man's just busy at the moment, so you people just have to hang on. We're going to get to him. But I want to ask you something. You did mention when you started basics, it was a flip trip. You did use that word. That's a brandy, isn't it? Wasn't there any jokes about it?
I think it was before brandy time, really. There was rum then, eh? Remember the guys, it was Castle and Lion, and I think it was Red Hot rum. I think brandy came later, isn't it? You should know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In the police, it was Red Hot rum and nothing else. And I recall that I said to myself, if there's ever a woman I'm dating and she drinks Red Hot rum, there's no way in the world I can get romantic.
No.
Get a big policeman sitting there looking at you like that. So no,
like a major or something, or RSM, I suppose. Eh? So,
yeah.
but I think also because of that, that those, and afterwards only, I met up with Les afterwards a couple of times, and we had a couple of beers, and but this, the stuff that they did, in 1987, because there was another 7-med guy that he always they had, that he joined his team afterwards. I mean, they had very rough times there, and I actually met up with him the other day when he talked about these operations. And but it's amazing, so I mean, I know the story goes about the medics, but the 7-med guys, and he always jokes about it, but he said I was a lazy medic, but he said he'll always take me with. As a matter of fact, he took me to a couple of other projects afterwards as well. I think I think that I was the only guy stupid enough not to run away. So, but that was a great team to be involved with, and that's obviously because of the 7-med scenario that we ended up there.
But how extensive was your medical training? Did you feel equipped that you can actually help people if it comes to it?
I think so, Chris. I mean, I think it's like anything. I mean, if you go to infantry or artillery, it's the same thing. They train you, and you don't know anything about a noddy car or elephant, and then they train you how to work it. And I think can you do it properly? Are they probably just enough that you can do it a fairly good job. So I think from a medic perspective, I think there was good training. I mean, the ops medic side was obviously a little bit more from an operational perspective. So the medical courses were done, like the normal would, but from an ops medic perspective, they combined a little bit more of the combat side and the artillery side, and to be able to work with the other forces. So 7-med, I mean, I think there was mainly to get at a physical position, a physical space to be involved, to be part of to be able to work with the special forces guys. But you had enough training to do the basics, and all our job was just to get the guy, to treat him and get him into a medical facility, where they'll get proper treatment. So I think from that perspective, it was unconventional, though. I think in today's world, probably it will be a lot more regulated, but there you had proper medicines, highly scheduled medicine, and you got stuff there that I suppose a lot of people shouldn't be working with, 19 years old with 6 months medical experience. but you can't, nor can you plan for it. When the guy steps on a AP, and you suddenly got to treat a young man where his heel is blown off, still in the boot. It's stuff that you when it happens, it happens. But I think we had great training. I think there was a lot of time spent on that type of stuff, and I think good enough to get the basics done. Don't think great, but I think we were good enough to handle it.
I was about to ask about that amputation. I mean, I have to wonder here. You do say that I think it was Les Brockman who were actually holding the torch for you.
Yes.
Now, while he was holding this flashlight for you and you working there, would you be like, sir, please, just do a proper job. Shine here, shine me. Or are you too busy? Or did he do a good job? Let me ask you that. Did he do a good job for you?
I think instead of him being, he wanted to get me to get the job done as quickly as possible. So I think he just held the torch to say, listen, get it done. But I mean, I think there was a bit of a moment there, that if it was a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old soldier there, it was one thing, but this was really a young boy. So, but I think he did a good job. Listen, he can't count. He doesn't know how to count properly. that we know with the brigade thing. And he thinks he knows a lot about medical stuff because he you know, from the Stemetal thing. But no, I think the one thing was those little kids that just brought that guy very quickly, and then they went back. I don't know if they ran away, you know, but they were still there. But no, he was I must, you know, I make a lot of jokes about Les and with him as well, but amazing guy. I mean, this guy he kept calm in horrible situations, and you know, that's probably what makes a good soldier, not the fact that he's brave, that he can stay calm in those situations. So I think he probably kept me calm, and I think he probably did his job by holding the flashlight correctly. But I do know that he said, "Listen, hurry up quickly to get this, you know, get it done." You know, that's was a great. No, he's an awesome guy. I would have him anytime holding the torch for me in that situation.
You know, it strikes me that these people are very one-track minded, that they do want to carry on with a mission, no matter what happens.
I mean, but you know, I remember I never knew these guys. I afterwards realized what legends they were. Oh, and and now it makes sense. You know, then it didn't. You know, I just want to go home. And every time we got blood noses. You know, we never, you know, go this way, and we got beaten up and they had to retract, and then the other way around, and somehow they had the guts to go back, you know. And they wanted to get the job done. I don't think, you know, they don't think they really planned it in a safe scenario. That was, how do we get there? How do we get it done? If we come back, it's a bonus. But they wanted to get the job done. And that's probably what made them awesome soldiers, you know. And those days they were really good soldiers, and these probably were the cream of the crop. I only realized that afterwards. Never knew that when we as a serviceman met up with them.
Which brings me to the question: are you guys soldiers or medics or both?
Yeah, I think we are medics, and then you get put into a position where you have no choice to become a soldier. We were never trained to be soldiers, but with people like Les, you ended up not having a choice. Working with guns and tools that we never seen in our lives before, but it's basically just. Les had a Sam 7, carried that all over, you know, on all the. As a matter of fact, it hung had a special place in our Casper. And all he wanted to do was to shoot down a MiG with this thing. So every time there was some MiGs in the air, firstly, what you do is when you stop, for the night or whatever, you dig your foxhole. And the one day we got a new guy in. I think it was called Antonio Correa. I think he was a radio. I think he was a radio guy, probably to help with the Portuguese interception. And he arrived there, and we all dug proper deep foxholes because we've been bombed before. Antonio hasn't been in that situation. He was a frisk guy, man. He was staunch. And he dug a little foxhole, and I went and said, Antonio, I think you must make this a little bit deeper. No, in fact, that's not a problem. No problem. It's not necessary. And the MiGs came over, and the first 250-pounder bomb, I don't know how big those things were, fell probably far away, probably 500 meters, maybe a kilometer away. But that sounds like very, very close. But when those things explode, it is not fun. And there was always the one plane came down to bomb, and the other one tried, because they didn't really know where we were. They knew we were in that area, so they were bombing to try and get reaction. And then the other one was spotting to see if they can see something. Now, there were two problems. The one was the Les with his Sam 7 toy that he wanted to shoot down the planes, makes a hell of a lot of smoke. So he said, listen, if you pull the trigger, you got to make sure, because, I mean, we can be really stuffed if you miss. He never got a chance to fire it. I think it was a good thing. But secondly, Antonio started digging. When the first bomb fell, he started digging his home with his hands, making that foxhole deeper. And he was making dust and throwing out the sand. And Les shouted and said, hey, stop doing it. But I mean, Antonio was not, he realized his hole was very much not deep enough. And Les actually jumped out of his foxhole, ran over to Antonio and jumped on top of him and kept him still, holding him, not to dig. Half of Les's back stuck out. That's how shallow his foxhole was. And afterwards, Antonio's foxhole was always the deepest.
I have to ask you, Bowie, when you were broadcasting from that Casper, that ground shot thing, or foo, or whatever they called it, was it directional? Would you twist those speakers that they show in a certain way, or was it all around any direction?
No, it was directional. So it was also used for, so there was messages. So when we got to areas where they were at a stage, there was one unit, Fapla unit was surrounded, but they've been trying to get them out, but they couldn't get them out for days. So we ended up going with Grondskree, and Les had messages from Savimbi talking to those soldiers. And he also took some of those 120 mortars, and he made he printed pamphlets, and he somehow reworked those mortars to dump the pamphlets on them. So we spent nights with that speaker. So what he tried to do was to keep them awake with these messages, but it also kept us awake. That was the other problem. But he also had a lion roars, animal sounds, those scary sounds. So it was those evil sounds, and there was those messages from Savimbi, and also Dolf Skeepers had heavy metal. He loved heavy metal music, and some of those very heavy metal music they played throughout the night. So it was that plus the lion's roar and the messages from Savimbi. So that was one of the things that was used more for that eventually. The tanks was when we were really in trouble, that that was supposed to help us, but that never worked, I think. And that was one of the big things that Les used it for. Even after my time, they still use it for a lot for that type of psychological warfare.
Did you realize that when you were walking in front of that Casper, that the driver cannot see you if you are about 6 feet away from him in the front, because the bonnet is in the way? Did you know that thing has a blind spot?
Les never told me. He never told me, damn it. Now I hear this 35 years later.
Yeah, no,
I walked there for nothing in the minefield.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to see you if you were too fast. And that's why the Casper design changed. The nose went down, bigger windows, because we were driving over people in the township. But seriously, now, I want to warn people, if don't do the thing with a glucose with anybody, because you will kill someone. Especially if you're diabetic, guys, don't do it, because it will definitely give you a sugar rush which you've never had in your life.
I would strongly recommend against that. I don't think that was in the manual either, Koos. There's a lot of things not in the manual.
But it worked.
Flipping, listen, we couldn't catch him for about 45 minutes.
So he just took off and he just kept on running.
You know what we do? At a stage, we were so thirsty. We tried to drink one of those. So we so thirsty, and I thought, listen, let's try it. So I cut one of those drips open. But you just couldn't drink it. You know, we just tried anything, but we couldn't, you know. So you can't drink that. I know you can't drink a drip. We tried to, and but it worked wonders for us.
You learn any lessons from this which you could take further in your life from this experience?
A hell of a lot. So I mean, I've told Les a couple of times when we've got after a couple of years. But you know, in business, I learned that from him and from those situations where you just, you know, when he told me that day, and he said, listen, in that trench when we drank the Stemitals, he said, Maria, because he could see I was shit scared, petrified, I suppose. And he said, listen, do you think we're going to make it out alive? And I said, no, Commandant. And he says, listen, we've got 10 ways to get out of this alive. We just got to select the right one. And I must be honest, in business, you know, when there's cash flow issues, there's transactions that go haywire, there's horrible situations, and business is a war zone a lot of times. And but when that happens, and you're in that very dark space or tough space, and you don't really know how you're going to get out there, you know, I've learned that you select one of the 10 options. There's 10, just select the right one. And secondly, you know, I also say that I've told a lot of people that in our business as well, in our management team, you know, that this is not life-threatening. It's just a situation, you know. You're not about to die here. It's just cash flow, you know. Got to manage whatever, or it's just a transaction, or there's a problem, you know. It's not life or death, and that has made a massive difference in a lot of decisions I've taken. So I know there's a lot of, you know, potentially some people that are negative about the national or that dienstplicht period. A lot of people saw it as a waste of time. And I think a lot of cases it might have been. But in our space, in my personal space, I've learned a hell of a lot, probably because of the situations we've been put through. But I think it was a great learning phase of our lives for all the young men then. And personally for me, I took a hell of a lot of positive out of it. I know there's stories about shoot the war, not the war, why the war. But that's not the issue for me. It's more about, you know, what I got out of it. And I got a hell of a lot out of it. Positive out of it.
Last question, yeah. Did that girl ever contact you again? The dear Johnny one?
I got back and she met a policeman, and he was from the traffic department, and he had a traffic motorbike. Now, I grew up in Pretoria North. Now, there was just after the Chips movie. Do you remember the Chips movie? So if you had a policeman boyfriend with a police motorbike, I had no chance there, Koos. No chance.
Well, internet, we've come to the end of this one, and I must tell you, with my sore head and all and whatever, I really enjoyed this one. Normally, when I sit here on the other side, you guys don't see it, but I'm like going like this, and I'm nodding, and I'm doing all sorts of things. But it hurt. I must tell you, it hurt to sit nodding here. So I didn't do it as many times as normal. I apologize for that, but man, this was fantastic. A really great story. To the rest of you out there, guys, come and talk to us. Don't let anybody tell you your story is unimportant. Your story is not unimportant. Come and tell us what happened to you. We want to know. And so does your children, and so will people to follow our generations. They will be able to sit here and say, yeah, well, those were nice guys, you know, actually, they were decent people. And that's what we want. So please contact me, contact the Legacy channel if you need to speak to us. All of you were important. Don't think that you needed to be some kind of a special forces guy behind enemy lines or whatever. Everybody played a role. Everybody. So thank you very much, Hugo. I really enjoyed this. This was fantastic, man. And as we always say here at Legacy, until we meet again, God bless.
Thanks, Chris.
Internet. I'm so sorry to have to say to you that a few days after we made this video of Hugo, he died in an aircraft accident with his best friend. And we can only express our condolences with his wife and the family of both men who died that day. It was the Martinez, Jacobus de Klerk, and Hugo Maree, both of them passed. I have no words. I can just say to the widows and the family, the children, his friends, his people, man, we're sorry. We're so sorry to hear this. He had a good funeral. There were lots of people there. And I want to urge all of you, guys, we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. We just don't know. So if you have a story, please come and tell us. Come and tell us your story so that we know about it. And lastly, I want to thank Major Dr. Stefan Rawlins. He's the one who brought Hugo to us in the first place, ensuring that his voice will live for as long as the channel is alive and as long as the video exists. Also want to thank General Les Rothman, Major General retired, who's the one we did the liaison with Hugo's family to release this video to you. As such, let us bow our heads and listen to the last tattoo in honor of a great man. Thank you to all of you. God bless.